everyone. This PowerPoint is going to give you an overview of the ESOL program at my school and in my district. This next slide is how children qualify to receive ESOL services. First of all, they do a home language survey, which is an SLS, and there are 3 questions that every family must answer prior to enrollment. The first question is, which language does your child best understand and speak? Which language does your child most frequently speak at home? And which language do adults in your home most frequently use when speaking with your child? If all 3 responses are English, then you just stop right there. If not, you have to proceed to what is called a screening. And then we have a screening for assessment for ESOL. And this all is under WIDA, which is the World-Class Instructional Design and Assessment. Kindergartners do what's called a WAPT. And this is all under WIDA. It's the Access Placement Test. Test is done one-on-one for kindergarten. Assesses listening and speaking, and if the score is more than 28, the student qualifies for services. Grades 1 through 12 qualify if a student's overall score is greater than 5. They will qualify too for services. ESOL teachers and students. As far as teachers, there are 2 ESOL teachers and one of them is the lead. In addition, there are about 8 other ESOL endorsed general education teachers at our school. Teacher 1, she has been teaching for about 18 years now, 8 of which were ESOL endorsed, and she was the lead. And she is English speaking, by the way. Teacher number 2 has been a Spanish teacher in previous years, as well as clinical psychologist, and is our half-time ESOL teacher. She is Spanish speaking. As far as the students, there are about 180 ESOL students, which are primarily Spanish speaking. 111 of them are active right now. The rest are either being monitored or have exited our program. There are so many acronyms used with ESOL. As a special education teacher, I am very familiar with acronyms. We have many in that department as well. There is TESOL, which is Teaching English Speakers of Other Languages, ESOL, which is English Speakers of Other Languages, ESL, English as a Second Language, ELL, English Language Learner, LEP, Limited English Proficiency, TPC, which is Testing Participation Committee, L1, First Language, or L2, Second Language. ELP is English Language Proficiency, ELD is English Language Development, Access, Assessing Comprehension and Communication State to State in English. SIOP, SIOP, is Sheltered Instruction Observation Protocol, and WIDA, WIDA, is World-Class Instructional Design and Assessment Consortium. This next slide has to do with access testing. This is part of a standardized testing that is used to determine English language proficiency. It stands for Assessing Comprehension and Communication State to State in English. Determining the English language proficiency level of students, it also provides districts with information that will help them evaluate the effectiveness of their ESOL program. It provides information that enhances instruction and learning in programs for English language learners. It helps assess annual English language proficiency gains using a standardized based assessment instrument. And it provides data for meeting federal and state requirements with respect to student assessment. The testing window goes from January 16th to March 2nd. There are 4 different domains given during the access testing: listening, speaking, reading, and writing. Kindergarten testing is done one-on-one. How do ESOL teachers teach and differentiate instruction and assessments? There is so much that can be done in the classroom to differentiate instruction for all students. As a teacher of children with special need, I am constantly differentiating their instruction. And there are students that are ELL in my classroom as well, and they receive a lot of the same modifications or accommodations. Knowing their language objectives is very important. How they receive messages. So especially with listening and reading. For listening, they need a lot of role play, identifying things, listening, recognizing. You need to point, show, and they need to show that they're following directions. During reading, read aloud is a big one. Exploring information and previewing things, of course, like pre-teaching vocabulary. When they're producing things, like when they're doing writing or speaking, during writing they need to list, summarize, ask and answer questions. They have to justify things, compare. And during speaking, a lot of it is vocal. Naming, discussing, rephrasing, asking and answering questions. Things should be said step by step to them. Ask them to respond. Make sure they understand. Check for understanding. Teachers have to understand the 4 domains, which is speaking, listening, reading, and writing. Students can show understanding of the standards through each of these areas differently. Once a teacher recognizes what they understand, they can implement various ways to teach specific content. A reading assignment differs from a speaking assignment, but teachers can find out what students understand through diverse language functions. This next slide has to do with how we differentiate instruction for ELL students, as well as how we give them assessments, and what types of assessments we give. Differentiated instruction can be in the form of using visuals and pictures, pre-teaching vocabulary, and of course ESOL teachers focus on language while content teachers focus on content. The use of graphic organizers, the use of technology, manipulatives, many listening devices. We also use System 44, which is a reading program done on the computer, which focuses on decoding and fluency. Read 180 is another reading program done on the computer, which mostly focuses on comprehension, all with visuals and sound. Giving examples of modeling, of course, using color coding, using and teaching with mnemonics, extra time to complete the assignments, and providing, of course, clear step-by-step directions, possibly breaking things down into smaller steps or chunking them. These are all different ways we can differentiate instruction within our classrooms. As far as assessments, students can be tested in a small group setting, one-on-one. We can change the format of the test, reduce the number of problems, give more white on paper. Questions and answers can be read to the student, or they can have extended time to complete. And whatever assessments, whatever types of assessments we give, and how we give those assessments, the same way that we give them in the classroom will be done during standardized testing as well. And of course, English language learners take the access test, and we'll get into more of that later on. Collaboration, one of my favorite things, especially as a teacher of students with special needs. Without collaborating, nothing gets achieved. Students show more success when teachers, ESOL teachers, special ed teachers, all teachers in the school, when we collaborate, big things can happen. Collaboration occurs during planning time as well as after school. ESOL teachers get together with the gen ed teachers, even special ed teachers, of the students that are served ELL. Areas that can possibly be discussed can range from lesson prep, gaining background knowledge of your students, sharing information, strategizing, strategies used to accommodate the students, how strategies will be applied during the lessons, and input from all teachers working with ELL students. Again, I can't stress enough how important it is to collaborate with all teachers so that we have success for all students. Exiting and monitoring ELL students. The ELL students take the access test between January and March to determine whether or not they can exit the program. If the students score at a level 5, which means they've bridged the gap, they can exit the program. As discussed earlier, there are 5 levels. Students are then monitored for 3 to 4 years. Classroom teachers must fill out a monitoring form to assess academics each 9 weeks. Forms do not have to be filled out after 2 years by general education teachers. Students can still qualify for accommodations, but are not served and do not have to take the access testing. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation today on overview of ESOL program. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.